Alright, so here we have one of the last matches we played during our match modes last weekend, October, here in 2020. This is the third video that I'm doing from that series of games, and this one's on Power Plant, as you can see, which is a really fun map, particularly for 5v5s, because it's really well suited for double end, because you can see how much forest there is. And you got this three-pointer over here at the crash site that is basically just all forest. And so you get a lot of good infantry battles here. There's some cool spots on this map for snipers, and in fact, there might be too many spots for snipers, which makes it a little annoying at some point. But we have a good time on this one. So I'll just start it rolling here. So again, I am playing Inf. I mostly played Inf. That weekend. In fact, I think I played Inf in literally every game. I can't. I like to play armor. I almost like armor more than Inf, but I tend to get put at Inf because I'm decent at it. But we also have Cat over here playing Inf, and he was awesome. He really locked down Crash Site for us. So I'm trying to get on the caps for both Crash and Suburbs, which is maybe a little greedy of me. But we also have this disaster here with their double air push um, attacking us in suburbs. And this is going to make things difficult for us. And we're going to see that we actually suffer a pretty big um, push here in suburbs in the beginning. It's unconventional, right? You'd expect them to attack Crash Site a lot more, because Crash Site is generally considered the point that needs to be taken on this map because it's three-pointers. So each team has their safe three-pointer. I'll say safe in quotations because we're about to see our suburbs get pushed in here. But we have suburbs. That is what it's called. Right? It might be apartment complex. So I can't remember. It's been so long. Um, and they have power plant. So we each got our safe three-pointers. There's this two-pointer that's kind of contested, like somewhere in the middle, and then there's the three-pointer. So what do you want? You want the three. You want the two three-pointers that you can get to, because then you'll have just a one arrow advantage, which is what we got right now. So their strategy is definitely unconventional, but I mean they're gonna do a good job with it. They're pushing in pretty hard. They got lots of drops coming in. I got drops too, but frankly they're just gonna put a lot of effort into this with two air, their infant armor and support all coordinated pushing on this side. We're going to get our teeth kicked in a little bit here for a minute. I already lost an airborne to direct arty. This one is not going to survive very long because they got vision on it, and the air is just going to chase him down. I've got a reg trying to shoot the air, but he himself is getting attacked. So it's looking, it takes a lot for them to push into this point, but it's looking like they're setting up a pretty good foundation for pushing that. We're getting forts up at crash site, so that's not good for them. But right now they probably don't think they need that. They're going to be doing this suburbs push. I got that rig out of the apartment building just in time. I'm probably going to have him. I'm probably going to have him fortify this, and so they have an airborne back here that I didn't know about, and I just lost some inf to that. So we need to generate some TA, which we're not going to be able to do very well because no caps are going to be exchanging hands here. We don't have a shot at train station, and they're not going to decap suburbs until they're confident we won't be able to cap it right back. Right now I'm the leading scorer, and I only have 9 TA in my pocket.
You lost a unit. They're taking hits.
Reach is being helpful. As air players are so kind to us, infantry players, it's much appreciated. But air is critical in giving TA to the infantry player so that they have enough for drops. So I've got my drops coming in here. I want this forest here in front of suburbs because I know that like this is gonna be problematic. I can't keep anything alive over here because of air. This is bad news for me. I'm using an APC to try and kill some of these airborns. Luckily, this guy doesn't see this other one coming down, and our air is able to help me pick him off.
They're engaging us.
I'm kind of getting this forest captured, but they're going to drop arty on me. And thought he might have been might have been the resupplying. He's not, so I'm able to get him
They're
out of
under
there.
fire!
Maybe I'll be able to resupply him, but that
Send some
airborne squad's
reinforcements!
probably
You
gonna
lost a
die.
unit.
That one's dead, so
Drop in some backup
they
first
they
squad
don't they don't
now!
want me in any of this force. They want me having any part of that.
Send new
And look how
soldiers to
much
fill
it's
in
already
for a casualty.
You
deforested.
have incoming
I think
reinforcements.
Hubert brought
Turret
in
coming
a
in.
Medardi, but it's not here anymore. So I think it must be them deforesting that. Or that might be a napalm strike
They
or
are
a
engaging
Medardi.
us!
But they're giving us everything they can. They got
You lost
support
a
pushed up
unit.
all the way over here. They got this forest under control.
Your units
Armor's
arrived and
pushing
need
up,
orders.
and they've got this decap.
They're
So
taking...
this is kind of bad for us.
We got casualties! Send some new recruits! Fire!
It's kind of not good for us that we aren't able to
Vertayot down!
capture our home point here. Cat over here playing Inf is going to start making some pushes at power plant and tick him off a little bit.
If you need more units,
He
we can bring
decapped
them
it
in
to
now.
kind of help us with the bleeding problem we have. The
Unit
arrows
killed.
were not in our favor. So, in fact, they didn't even have this fortified, or maybe he killed the forts. I'm not sure. I wasn't watching closely, but
You got casualties.
this is good. I like what he did here because it forces the air player to focus on him for a minute, right? It gives us a chance to breathe. I mean, they got two air players, so there's still one of them to deal with, but they're gonna try and keep an eye on him for a little while. I think they're gonna drop
They're
airbornes on
taking
him though.
hits!
I don't know if he's prepared to hit those airbornes. He's got one airborne
They're
in the
taking
area,
hits!
and he's got a sniper.
They killed a unit.
He's gonna get this
They
one.
are engaging
That's
us!
good.
They are engaging us!
These two though are gonna make it, and he's gonna try and deny the cap with his reg.
They are engaging us!
Meanwhile, we got control of suburbs back through. That was a pretty hard fight.
Your new units are on the
Um,
way.
I think armor should probably be using more light tanks at this juncture. I always say that 3 is the maximum heavy tanks you ever want to call in. There's not a lot of maps, I think, that I can think of where it's good to have 3 heavy tanks at all times. Hometown is one of them because there's so many heavy
Your new
tank sniping
units are
spots.
deployed.
They're taking hits!
You can make a good argument for
They are
seaside
engaging
because
us!
there's great tank sniping lanes on the seaside. In this case, I would not have all this heavy. I mean, one because we're
Unit
just dying.
killed.
We're dying all the time, so having a heavy tank is just going to feed them TA. And I understand that 2 light
We are
tanks gives you
regrouping and
more
Waiting
TA
orders
than
for reinforcements.
1 heavy tank, which I think that's true. Because
Send
the
new
other team more
soldiers to
TA
fill
that
in
is
for
when
our
they kill them,
casualties.
but it's harder to kill 2 light tanks because you can scoot them around. They're more mobile.
They are engaging us!
The heavy tanks are a bit slower. We're using them to get forts up here, but so we got a full fort here with a heavy tank and a repair tank sitting on it. This fortification is just about done.
Unit
Um,
gone.
Fire!
I'm starting to get the control of the left forest here.
We are regrouping and resupplying.
That that Captain Reg is pretty nice because that's gonna hurt their air a bit, right? I brought out a Medardi because I was probably getting fed up with the number of snipers or whatever in there that I couldn't get rid of. I'm not very good with Medardi. I'm just gonna be honest about it. Like I usually don't factor Medardi into my game, but um, I think it was just necessary in this case because they had Artie and they had some airborns that I was just having trouble wrestling that forest back from them. I think I got it now. I'll need to get some drops in there, but we're slow in generating TA in this game because we're not capping anything. We're not capping anything, and I'm not really getting anything to kill.
Enemy AA
And I'm
disabled.
I'm the top scorer still, so I mean this is bad news for us. If I'm the top scorer when I can't cap anything and I can't kill anything, then it means we're just not making any
Your new
TA.
units are
You
on the
can see
way.
that they're outscoring us. So they clearly have vision on these AAs. Like that AA just evaporated.
Your new units are deployed.
They are engaging us! They're
You lost
taking
a
hits!
unit.
So
They're taking
it
hits!
doesn't look good for us here on the left side because we're really not winning this, but it takes the other side, it takes NATO a lot to be able to push into suburbs because remember, suburbs
You
is
got
supposed to be a
casualties.
safe point for us. It's that close to our spawn. It's really hard for NATO
Give
to
us the
get
order, and
control of
reinforcements will
suburbs
be
or
yours.
even contest it for that
They are
matter.
engaging us!
So if you are NATO, at this point you have to be having some existential concerns about your strategy,
They
right?
killed the unit.
Because they're not sure if they're going to be able to get back in here. Their air player probably just saw that it's fully forwarded. Even if we're kind of like rushing our AAs up into the fray to be annihilated by tank fire. Is that a general tank? No, it's just a two Chevron.
They killed a unit.
But I mean, there's no AA on the field right now,
They're
right?
under fire.
Yeah. So their error, if they figure that out, they can probably come in.
Many units remaining.
All this
You
stuff
lost
might
a
die
unit.
right now. I think that's our armor player calling mid-air to try and deal with some of the air. So in the seaside match that I talked about in our
Unit
analysis. Oh, let me pause because some interesting things are happening, but I want to say something. In the seaside match that I looked at, it would have been good for one of the infantry players, either me or the other guy, to switch to mid-air because all the buildings had been destroyed at some point in the match. We were having trouble keeping infantry alive, and we didn't. It's not like either one of us had a strong foothold with airbornes anywhere. We were making good plays on either side of the map and in town to help out, but it might have been better if we just brought out a med set and helped the support against the enemy double air strike that was happening. In this case, we that is not a good idea. One of the infantry players going mid-air would not be a good idea because there's still a ton of forest here. It's a big map. This 3 point is very important, so I think it's definitely still important that we stay double inf here. And in fact, for 5v5s, this is one of the few maps where I would argue that um, double inf is a superior strategy to just heavy air and mid air running two air players. So we can't switch, but we are having trouble with the two heavy air players. We're kind of getting it under control. But now, as I was saying, NATO had some concerns about their strategy because they realized it was failing, right? It didn't work. They never got suburbs. They only contested it for a little while. And now, even though they were probably kind of winning the fight over there, we were able to push at least a little bit and get suburbs under control. So they're constantly bleeding an arrow now. We got one arrow on them. So now they're going to pivot their attack over to crash site. And we can see that they dropped right on the points, which I am never a fan of, um, except in the very late game. It's not a good idea to drop right on the points, except in the very late game. Even when I do combo drops, I tend to drop them in like buildings or forests around the points, clear the points, and then try and rush the infantry onto there to get them. But because then at least if they immediately notice the combo drops coming down, then they might run some units onto the point to keep you from capping it, and they'll run over your infantry, and your infantry are dead. The way I prefer to do it is I put them in the forest, and then the infantry at least survives, even if the combo drop ends up failing. Even if you don't cap the point, you still get the infantry to stay alive. But in this case, these poor guys are all these infantrymen are gonna die. It's gonna be a total massacre. Their offensive TA did not work to kill the
You have
forts.
incoming reinforcements.
This
Tavares
airborne is
here.
gonna escape, but only because of our negligence. We should have had a direct RD on it.
You lost a unit.
But look, they're pushing over here. So their armor and support pushed over here. And so me and Kat right now are calling like, hey, we need armor and support to start spawning
Unit
over at
killed.
crash site immediately.
Your
Like, we
units
need help.
arrived and need orders.
They never do. They never come over here to help. They're kind of laser focused on train station, which again I think is just not a good strategy because it's a two pointer. It's not
You lost a unit.
it's not going to give us a arrow advantage. Even if their strategy works, or even if they like win the
Give us
fight,
the order, and the reinforcements
they're going to
will be
take a
yours.
two pointer, and we're still going to be down an arrow, and it's not going to be a sustainable
Unit
strategy.
gone.
So we need this site. I start spawning over here. Me and Kat are doing our best. Our air player understands that we need crash site, so he's going to come over and help us. Right now, there's like a blob of AA running around that we can't really do anything about. So um, he's going to decap this, I think, right? He's going to decap, which is smart because here comes air. Air is going to prevent him from capping again. I got a tank buster down up here to try and dislodge them. We don't want them to have this point. We don't want them to have it captured.
You got
It's
casualties.
not good that it's contested, but At the very least, we took some of the aero pressure off us, right? These guys, they're doing whatever over here at train station. Not exactly important to the match right now.
Awaiting squad reinforcements.
The real battle here is happening at crash site. And actually, I kind of question the logic for NATO to continue like even having like a tripwire defense over
You lost a
here.
unit.
They got a
You have
light
incoming
tank and a rep
reinforcements,
tank and
Tavarish
an
Commandeer.
AT and some inf. I question even having any of that there when they just captured crash site and they had it for a minute. They could have ended our game and made it a lot more difficult for us to even get back into it if they had just like held on to crash site a little better. This team was
Your
not going to
units
push in the
arrived
power
and
plant.
need
There's just
orders.
no way it was happening. They might have gotten trained from you if you stop paying attention to it entirely, like I'm
We are
suggesting they do.
regrouping and resupplying.
Here comes another armor push, but this time all the AA's dead. So
Yeah, we got
um,
the target.
hoping
You got
our air is
casualties.
able to come over and assist, but they have no AA, so these tanks are
You
going
can
to die
request
pretty
new
quick.
units now,
They should.
Tavarish Commandeer.
And then we're going to get another cap. So this was decapped.
Unit killed.
So me and Cat are each going to get another 7 TA out of it. And this is going to help us finally start generating some TA, which is something we haven't previously been able to do. We got train station, so eventually that's going to help us. Um, Interestingly,
You
see, this
lost
is
a
what I don't
unit.
understand. Why is there air just loitering over there at train station? I mean, they're cleaning up. There's no AA left on the map. They're
Blew up
beating
on
the
that
heck out of
alert.
these guys, but um,
You lost a unit.
there's nothing we can do
Hostile
about it over
nuke
here.
launched.
They're nuking us. That's why. So they're nuking us. So they're gonna try and push here again, which I think is just really a tactical mistake because
Your new
um,
units are on the way.
they should have realized that there was no armor support from our side over here on crash site at all. There was no support there. So their two air players could have just loitered and just picked off the regs in the forests, and they could have captured crash site, and they just would have had a one arrow advantage over us for the rest of the game. There would have been nothing we could do about it.
Your new
Once they
units are
if they had
deployed.
dislodged the infantry from this
Hostile
forest,
helicopter went
then
down.
it would have been really hard for me and Cat to get back in there. So we're gonna nuke here, which I don't know. Maybe it's gonna help, maybe not. Uh, it was the conventional wisdom, um, at least
They
years ago, that when the nuke and push happened from the other side, it was just a good idea if you're holding onto a counter nuke to just go ahead and let it go. So I
Your
kind
new
of I
units
kind of
are on the
like this
way.
nuke, even though it didn't kill a whole lot. I'm kind of in favor of that
Everyone's inside.
because it stops the push from coming. They were gonna try and push there because they nuked it, so that's a good nuke in my opinion. Ponter calls them out as two bad nukes. I think their nuke was bad because it
Awaiting
Your
didn't
new
really have a
squad
units are
strategic
reinforcements.
deployed.
purpose. Um, our nuke wasn't that bad because if we're taking them at their word, their strategic purpose should have been to nuke and push
They're
here in
taking
suburbs,
hits.
because evidently they gave up on crash site.
They're under fire.
So I like our nuke in the sense that it paused
If you need more units, we
it
can
paused
bring
the
them
any
in
attack
now.
that was coming. So they just got
They're
like
engaging
plain
us.
old. There's some weird stuff happening here. So we have four heavy AA kind of running around up there with no armor to support it. They had just like half dead AAs just sitting on the points like fortifying. This is like a little bit of an ugly match to be perfectly honest. But I think
You have incoming
yeah, there's the
reinforcements,
cluster
Tavarish
strike, so
Commandeer.
we're gonna clear that off. At this point, we got them. We got them at crash. So like I don't see what else they can do because they used all their TA for that nuke. They already tried their push at crash. We're getting it forwarded back up again. I don't think they really have any options left here.
Your
I
units
mean,
arrived
if
and
they're
need
if you're
orders.
NATO, then you have to try and push crash site again. But they are really on their back feet here. There's nothing they can really do. I'd say at this point the game is over. We're getting trained here
Last
without a
member
lot of
embarked.
difficulty. I'm gonna miss out on this cap here because I'm not paying attention.
You can request new units now, Tavarish Commandeer.
I mean that's important. I we all want to be on cap so we get more TA, but really that is like a critical part of this game that we don't give enough attention to. Just being on every single cap that you can. That's why I like to play the whole map at all
Last member
times.
embarked.
Even though we're double inf, I'm not gonna just leave Cat B over here on the
Hostile
right
nuke launched.
because I want that TA from capping those things. I'm helping them a bit with the
Three
airborne
minutes
drops to,
remaining.
to stay defensive, but also I'm over there so that when the other team decaps, I can take some of that TA, and
Hostile
that's
soldier killed.
critical. So here's another nuke that was dropped. Um, I'm kind of
Destroy
sighing
the
right now.
enemy.
Like that really does nothing for them. But to be fair, there wasn't anything they could really do. So if they had some leftover TA, they didn't really couldn't really do anything with it. I capped this back up real quick. I wasn't gonna wait for anybody because there's 2 minutes left. So if they were gonna do something sneaky and like they had another TA expenditure to decap crash and push us out of train station, it could have they could have made like a last ditch attempt here. Even though they're getting kind of wrecked all over the field in one-on-one battles, they could have done something fancy
Your
like
new
that, like
units are on the
decapped
way.
everything and tried to get a couple arrows on us
You lost a unit.
and pull a fast one. But I went ahead and capped it up real quick just to make sure something like that didn't happen. But again, this
Unit
match was
gone.
over at about like the 3:30 minute or 4 minute
We
mark,
got
something like
casualties.
that.
Send some new recruits.
Whenever I said it was, they
You have
didn't really have a
received
chance after that.
reinforcements. Disable that helicopter.
Trying to decide if I want to fast forward the rest of the match or talk through it. Um, See here
They're
again. I
taking
think
hits.
I
Your
made a point
victory
in
is
either this
close.
video or a previous one about dropping on right on the points. In that case, they got the cap out of it, but I
Waiting
just
orders for
killed him.
reinforcements.
Like he's already dead. If you look at it's funny because I'm dropping right on the points, but there is 1 minute left, and I'm putting a
1
cluster
minute
down on it,
remaining.
so I'll let myself go there, but it's you want to try and keep those airborns alive, and if you think about it
Enemy
from
soldier
a
isn't
TA
moving.
inflow outflow perspective, when you drop 10 TA to capture a point, and it's a 2 pointer, and you capture it, you get 5 TA back. And
They're engaging us.
you might even help your
Come under fire.
a teammate might even get on the cap,
They
right?
are
And so
engaging us.
they might get 5 TA as well. So but really you're only getting a max
You
TA
lost a
inflow
unit.
of
Taking
10
hits.
10 TA, and
They
so
are
inflow
engaging us.
outflow you're net even. It's really not like the greatest of investments, but if you can keep that airborne alive and he can make like 2 or 3 caps, all of a sudden you're
They're
talking
under
about
fire. 10 seconds
a bigger
remaining.
inflow, so your
You lost a
investment
unit.
leads to a greater amount of
5,
TA. So that must have
4,
been that guy's like
3,
second cap or something.
2,
I don't know. He
1.
brought in more TA for me. So there we have it. Um,
They're
that
engaging
TA,
us.
I'd say this match came down to TA mismanagement, right? Because uh, each team scored roughly the same here. We only scored about 100 points more than NATO side. Um, NATO just completely neglected crash site off the spawn, which was an interesting but defensible strategy, right? It was interesting that they chose not to go after crash site and try and push suburbs, and that's a defensible position to take. But I think it's probably not the best one, but interesting that they tried. When it failed, because eventually it did fail. I mean, it worked for a little bit, but eventually it did fail. And they pivoted over to crash site. They didn't really go all in on it, and I mean, they should have, because they should have noticed that our armor and support had absolutely no interest in participating in the crash site battle. So without armor and support noticing that that's going down and being willing to help the two Enf players over at crash site, the NATO team could have just completely grabbed this and had a one arrow advantage on us for the rest of the map, for the rest of the game. And if they really put their effort into it, that there really shouldn't have been anything that me and Kat could have done as two infantry players over there by ourselves. Our air players certainly helped us, but in reality, the other team should have won that fight if they had really put their weight into it. But instead, I think they tried to keep a token presence at train station, and it really wasn't worth it for them. Ended up not working out well. And then at the end, they just they launched some nukes that didn't really do anything. So they launched two 80 TA nukes, right? Because they didn't double nukes. They didn't buy them at a discount. They launched them at different times. So that's 160 TA that they could have used to capture crash site. Very strategically mismanaged over there. I'm not going to blame them because these are just informal matches, right? Like we're not playing a tournament or anything like that. But if you're looking to win the match, that kind of strategy is not going to get it done.